Avalanche.
Yeah, yeah. Too bad, too bad, too bad, too bad, too bad, too bad. She got me thinking that she too bad, too bad, too bad, too bad, too bad, too bad. She got me thinking that she.
What's going on, guys? It's Joel Casanova, your favorite mobile dance educator. And before we get to the actual episode, I could have called this episode Snowball or the Snowball Effect, but that's not as cool as Avalanche. So I'm going with Avalanche. And what I mean by Avalanche is small things that roll and start developing into bigger things with other individual things that eventually roll into one big, massive thing that has a whole lot more of an impact than it would have if it stayed the small individual pieces, right? Dance itself is like this, right? Dance is a collection of movements that you're putting together to make a full dance. And they're strung together by you. So even if someone else is doing that same choreography, it's not the same. You are stringing them together, right? If you were to go on stage and you came out, the lights came up, the applause stopped, and then all of a sudden you did one dance move. And you were like, boom. Even that is a collection of movements, but that's besides the point. Boom. And then you walked off stage, right? Everyone would be massively confused because they didn't come to see one dance move. They came to see a dance, which is a collection of movements. And that's how we need to start thinking about our dancing itself, that it's not like, oh, how many cool moves can I string together? It's like, what movements am I putting together to make a collective that has a bigger impact than it would if I just went boom and stopped. Even if you acknowledge the fact that it's individual pieces, like you're like, yo, remember that moment when he, or I love the part where he, or that one move that he did this thing, whatever, that was amazing, right? Or I would love to learn how to do that, or whatever. They're still acknowledging that that's one small piece within the large thing, but the impact that really affected them was not that one thing. Even if that was their favorite part, they're like, that whole thing made me feel some type of way. Or I'm like, yo, that was sick. Or like, ooh, that kind of creeped me out. Or like, whoa, he really portrayed his character. Or the emotion, or whatever is that you're doing in your performance. So that's like the first mindset that we have to have when it comes to dancing as a whole. So at its core, dance is an avalanche. That avalanche movement, that avalanche mindset then bleeds over into us because we are the tool. And I've said this multiple times. Go watch the other episodes and you can explain what I mean by that. But because we are the tool of dance, we should see that avalanche mindset as how we grow. Right? So there's not like a one huge moment where something explodes and you are now X. Right? All the small, tiny, disciplined things grow you to get on stage and do this thing, or teach this thing, or be this person, or have this skill in dance. Right? So you're like, slowly, the small individual parts are rolling into this big moment. And we don't know where the moments are. Let's be honest. Like, we just know that we're constantly collecting things as we grow. It's like, wow, you've grown so much. It's like, what, just now? Well, no, I haven't seen you in a year. I see all the things that you have grown in, or all the small pieces that came together to make the new you that I didn't know a year ago. Right? So it's like your control, your emotional expression, your patience with students, your vision for what you're putting together, this company, this studio, this business, this convention, this etc. Insert blank here. Like, wow, this is so much different from what I used to know as you've collected so much more things. This snowball is now so much bigger. This avalanche has so much more of an impact. Which impact is not just on yourself, or on the audience, but it's also on the people that we affect because of this avalanche mindset. So, memories are better than a memory, right? A lot of times, like, people have impacted me, like my mentors or my teachers or my coaches, or even people on my peers or even my students that have affected me. It's not like one thing was like, oh my goodness, that was amazing, right? Like, when I think of, I just got done with a musical theater performance, right? Shout out to you guys. You guys are awesome if you watch this episode. I have so many memories. I have so many memories of those students that collectively make me think, oh man, Anya, she did X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That makes me love her because of all these things. Aria, blah, 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 boom. Right? Gabriella, boom, 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 boom. Michaela, boom, 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 boom. Megan, Mateo, all these people that I have memories of, that's what impacted me. And vice versa. Right? So, like, when I affect my students, like, if I'm nice to them for one class, yeah, sure. That helps. That's nice. But if I consistently treat them with love and kindness over a period of a year, then it's like, wow, you affected me and made me think different of my dancing and my abilities and myself as a person because of all this collection of memories that's like an avalanche that I can look back on. Right? The impact is so much bigger when it's a small pieces each time, which goes back to what I said about we don't know when the impact is. Right? I finally get done with the last performance of the musical theater production. We're done. The show's over. We strike the set, the whole thing. Right? Or you have the student graduate. Or I stop teaching at this place. Whatever it is, you can now look back and be like, oh man, that messed me up. Like, my heart is like that, right? Because you're thinking back on the memories, not the memory. So, while you're growing, realize that it's for a purpose. The impact is what you're looking forward to. The impact is what you're searching out for through the small individual pieces. Right? It's like, well, why do I have to be on time for this class? Well, because then you'll consistently be on time for the class. And you'll consistently be there. And you'll get the most out of it until eventually you look back and you're like, wow, I never would have been the skill level I was at now if I was consistently late to class. Because that makes me think of it in a specific way. Or like, I'm going to show up for these students every day and I'm going to have this attitude towards them every single day. I don't care how I feel. Like, one day you're like, this is more than you. Go. Next rehearsal, this is more than you. Go. This is more than you. Go. Until eventually you look back and you're like, one, I'm more disciplined as a human being, right? Second, I'm sharper as a teacher. Third, I've impacted these students because I didn't let myself get in the way of this avalanche. I didn't choose to chop it up and hibachi these little small pieces of ice and snow. I allowed them to collect and roll until eventually I have impacted them in whatever way I impacted them. So, we are in charge of the avalanche. You are in charge of allowing the avalanche to have the impact that it has, both as a dancer, as a person, and as the impact that you have on other people.